Well, thank you everybody for joining us. It's 3 o'clock. I think we'll get started. So hello everybody. My name is Jenny. I'm the managing director of Skåne Startups. And we are a nonprofit organization built by entrepreneurs and for entrepreneurs. And our mission is to build the most diverse, vibrant, inclusive startup community here in southern Sweden. So why are we here today? Right? First, we want to connect the entrepreneurs together so we can learn from more experienced entrepreneurs and also learn from each other. And second, we want to show to the global community of talents and investors we have ambitious founders and innovative startups in southern Sweden.
So thank you for joining Skåne Startups Founder Fika Friday, where we invite some of the highly influential founders from Skåne to share their experience with our startup community. Today, we have our very special guest, Niclas Mollin, the co-founder and CEO of Occtoo, one of the 10 most promising startups in Sweden for 2021. My name is Verita. I'm currently a bit struggling with the background, but it's okay. I'm a venture advisor at Skåne Startups. Jenny and I will be your co-host today. We also invite a few founders and investors in our community, Amelia, Karina, Amanda, Charlotte, and Lucy, to join our discussion. So thank you all for being with us today. And before we get started, I will just mention a few rules. So for the founders of this panel, during our discussion, please click your virtual raise your hand and ask your questions to Niclas. Founders, please, before you're asking your first question, just shortly introduce yourself so we get to know you better. And for the audience who tune in to listen, please write your questions in the Q&A section, and we will address them in the first moment we have some time. So Niclas, in the last 6 months, Occtoo accomplished monthly recurring revenue growth of 100% and amazing team growth of 140%. So I'm sure we will have a great learnings from your experience. So thank you for accepting our invitation. And to start, we would love to get you a bit better. So please tell us about yourself and share us about your beginnings in your career.
Sure. So thanks for having me, first of all. And I wonder how way back I'm going, but I'm not the typical. I didn't went to like the KTH or LTH. I started to hustle very early on, doing sales. So started with telemarketing at a company called Lexicon, and worked from telemarketer, inside sales, key account, PP sales, and so on. So, and I will touch on my career later on, but on a personal level, I live outside Malmö. I have a wife, 2 kids, grown-up kids. Daughter turned 18, he got a driver license. I'm a little bit scared right now. Since end of 2018, I launched Occtoo, my latest pet project and company.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, yes, Niclas, I'm just wondering, you started your career as a key account managers and during your time as a VP of sales and marketing at Strategic Sweden, the company grew from like 10 person to 55 people within, I think, 3 years. And how did this experience, like growing and scaling up the business, like help you in your entrepreneurial journey?
I think I've always been, curious, always been a risk taker. Strateg was actually, that move was not, it was quite a big step for me personally, because we were, we were just living in bought our first apartment. I worked as a key account at Mentor, Etera, made, really good money in sales, but it was too, I wasn't challenged enough in that role. So when I got in contact with Frederick, who was one of the founders of Strateg, he talked about this great vision of building this a consultancy company on Microsoft technology in Malmö. And I met the rest of the founding team, and really good guys, and there were no one really, doing sales directly. So I joined them, and it was quite, easy, because we just went around to companies and asked about their problems, and some problems matched the competency of the consultants we had, and if not, we just went to another company. So that was quite easy for us. And since we had a foundation in Microsoft technology, we based our offering on Microsoft technology, and we approached regional companies. So that was, and it was very local, very, very local. So we had the office in Malmö, we hired in Malmö, and all that. And that was a big difference from the other companies going more, international, need to think more about, the cultural fit and all that. But of course, it was a learning curve, and that opportunity was actually the entry point to InRiver, where me and Jimmy and Daniel, we actually started working together at Stratitech. Jimmy Ekbecker was the consultancy manager, I was a sales manager, and Daniel was a sharp developer. So going into, if we segue into InRiver, which was called Metasoft at the time, but I met the first investor, Roland Persson, at Metasoft InRiver, and he explained, that they wanted to build a product company, and me and Jimmy and Daniel have built something similar, but more as a consultancy product for companies like Biltema and Nederman, very local solutions. And once again, going back to being, a risk taker, I felt like this is a really cool opportunity to, be part of a product company very early on. And what does it mean to, build a product company compared to a consultancy company? What does it mean to have a global arena and all that? So it was a big opportunity to just join that company. So me and Jimmy, we talked back and forth of, is this the next thing for us? And we decided yes, it was. So we joined the team of InRiver, and they were at the time doing much more than just PIM, and that was really what we decided to do together, and that's just building a product information management. So focus on one product instead of many. That's a great recommendation for founders. Don't try to help every customer. Try to help them in what you believe that you are really good at. So that's what we did with InRiver, really streamline and focus on one problem to solve. And that's what we aim to do with InRiver.
Yeah, but I'm just curious, like you started InRiver back in 2018.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Exactly. Like, why did you decided to start a company during the financial crisis? What was the version?
My wife was really mad at me at the time because she didn't felt like I was really understanding that we had small kids, and there's time when you take risk and there's time when you don't do it. But it was like the company really already existed, as I said, Metasoft, and what we did was like we really pivoted at the phrase that is being used within the SaaS community often, that you pivot from one solution to another. So the company already existed, but when me and Jimmy joined, it pivoted to a multi-product company to one product company, and that was product information management. And we realized there was a lot of things we need to do. So, well, good or bad timing, yes, it was definitely harder because we couldn't really do any sales. But on the on the good side was that we actually got some time to downsize. Metasoft at the time had 4 locations, and we decided, as we were here, the Johan Bilgen, another founder of Inriver, was also here. Roland Persson was here. We decided the headquarters for Inriver was Malmö, and then we downsized, and then we started to build again. So that was the background. So the timing was terrible, and it took us a couple of years to get going. Actually, around 2010, for us, that we actually started to get momentum. And this goes back to, if I can just, what Inriver are doing, but what we did at the time, we saw a big trend that 2008, it was very early on e-commerce. Companies sold through catalogs and through retail. Commerce were quite new, but we saw that this is something that's going to really blow up. So retailers need to sell through multiple channels is key. We also saw that the assortment is going to be much wider. And the assortment needs to be richer. It's going to need to manage more, more media, more videos to describe, because the consumer is going to be more and more picky. There were a couple of visionary companies at the time, like Stadium, Hallén, Swedish companies, and mail order companies that now are e-tail or retail companies. They were bold enough to realize that they can't keep doing what they've done in the past. They need to think in new ways. So it was really hard for us initially to convey the problem to potential customers, because they thought that they could solve it in the existing products they already had, the ERP system or their e-commerce system and whatnot. So we really had to dig down or dig deep in our positioning of the company and the product to be successful.
Yeah, I just want to point out that all the founders in the panel, feel free to raise your hand and ask questions. But yeah, Niclas, I'm just wondering that you mentioned that it took like 2 years for you to get some momentum. So what's like, if you looking back right now, what were some of the challenges? When you were building Inriver? Yeah.
Maybe this isn't relevant for companies starting now, but back then it was an on-premise solution, which meant that we sold a license to a customer, and then there was a big project on top of that. And what we did quite early on was to start building the product for the cloud. But before doing it from a product perspective, we decided to try out the commercial model. So let's see if customers really can pay for a subscription, then buy the license. So that took some time to test the waters with customers. But what that really helped us was to really lower the threshold for companies to start using our product. And that was a game changer, because all our competitors were on-premise. They were selling a traditional license. So we came out with a commercial model at first that they could subscribe to use our software, which was a big part. And when we saw that flying, we decided to go all in with the product, to build the product as a multi-tenant solution, which means that we can serve many customers from one solution. That was the transition. But from a recommendation standpoint, I urge everyone to really make sure that the commercial model is aligned with how the customers buy. Don't try to overcomplicate or over-engineer the commercial model, because it probably will fail.
And Niclas, under your leadership, I think the sales of Inriver has grew like to more than 100 million SEK. And I'm just curious, like, this seems to be a very unachievable goal for lots of the early stage founders. And what would be some of the, the key takeaways or, advice to achieve this huge milestone?
Yeah. Well, there was, and I agree with you. It's definitely hard, and definitely if you are a SaaS company, because you're building recurring revenue and it grows steadily. But that's a long-term value, and you want to build a long-term value in the company. But I would say that once you have built a product that solves a problem for a customer base, then it's all about scaling, and really the scalability is something that I was really proud of within River, because even if you look at you refer to 100 million, when I left 2018, we had built a very sophisticated sales process, which meant that we could actually more or less know where we should end 2018. I left in January 2018, and I think they ended up somewhere around 180 million. And that was just the predictability that you want to build into the model. And how we did it was really to align marketing, align sales development, align the sales team, but have specialized resources within the company that can really support the buying journey. And that's something that was really cool. But I think the specialized sales team is something that is a strong foundation as you scale your company.
Karina, please go ahead.
Thank you, Jenny, and thank you, Niclas, for telling us about all the learnings that you've had. So I am the founder and the CEO of my company called Changing Perspective, and so I focus on the cultural and the leadership and the communication within the companies. So I would like to know what do you think, what was the key in the organizational culture that made In River such a success, or has made In River such a success?
A great question. I think we were around 20 people when we decided that we should actually have something that really align us as a company and really align what we stand for. And the best thing is really to include the people that's in the company. It's not something that you should push from a founder owner perspective. It's something that needs to come within. So we established something we call High Five, and we outlined 5 core values that we agreed on, and that was really something that helped us grow, because the onboarding was something that everyone in the company worked with. We helped each other out and really kept the focus on one company, one team. Even when we grew into new countries and new offices, we spent a lot of time of gathering the company, and that was quite an investment, even in the early days, to bring in people from all around the world to one location. But I believe it's so much worth it, because it's very easy to hide behind the keyboard or behind the screen. But if you have met in person, there's so much worth. And if you have had fun and laughed together, you've solved problems together, you become this tight team. So early on, we started with that work, and that was a work we continued on doing all the time, to really make sure that it's about us, and we need to make sure that there's a personal leadership. You can't hide behind a manager or a leader. Everyone is accountable, and we need to help each other out to be successful.
Yeah, thank you, Niclas. I think we had our last founder Fika with Matthias Tully, and he was talking about exactly the same thing, that how he is passionate about organizing parties for his company, because in the great parties, you can break down the hierarchy in the organization and really get people together.
Yeah.
But Louise, please go ahead.
Yeah, hello. Thank you, Niclas. So my name is Louise Range. I'm CEO at Voice Diagnostic. And what we do is build a digital tool and platform for speech therapy to enable a more objective, evidence-based, and personalized treatment. And my question, it is it's a follow-up questions to Karina's question. And it is that if you look back at the first time you were a CEO, is it something that you know now about leading and building a team from the CEO perspective that you know now that you wish you knew back then?
Yeah, you don't have to do everything by yourself. I think that's a good learning, and make sure that you try to understand your own strengths and weaknesses, and make sure you build a team around that. I think one of my strengths is really to try to understand, the team and make sure that we have the right competence for the journey we're on. And you go through different phases. So, but going back to your question, is like, yeah, you don't have to do everything by yourself. You will only be, the weakest link eventually in the company. So delegate, know people that they are accountable, and that you give them the trust to make decisions. And it's okay to fail for me, and fail for what we talk about is learning. Failure it's just learning. So speak openly about learnings and share failures. I'm often talking about my scar tissues, because we don't talk often enough about the failures. We talk about all the success, what we've done, but I can tell you there's so much failure in my journey, but I'm very happy where it's ended up, or where we are right now, because I think that I've gained so much from those learnings.
Thank you, Niclas. Amanda.
Yes, hi. So my name is Amanda, and I actually am not a founder, but I work at Ventures, which is an investment company, basically. So we invest in early stage startups, and we just opened up in the south of Sweden as well. So
yeah,
really nice to be here and meet with you guys. So basically, I was just thinking, when you talked about finding the right people and understanding like who complements you, one thing that I see when I meet all of these super early stage entrepreneurs is that they really want to find the right founders or co-founders to join, but they always ask like, how do I find that person, or who do I know? How do I know who it is? And I'm just thinking, like, do you have any thoughts on that? How did you know that your co-founders were the right people, and where did you find them, so to speak?
Yeah, great question. And I think one talent you need to have as a founder or leader is you need to be able to attract people, because you need to have them equally convinced on the journey and the vision. And if you have problems attracting other people to believe in your vision, you need to take a step back. So that's my first reflection on the question. The other thing is how I knew. Well, I was fortunate enough to have been working with both Jimmy and Daniel, and talking about the team. We complement each other in a fantastic way. So we don't have to argue on who does what. So it's like comes natural, but it's also the third time is a charm. But I think it's really important to be true to yourself of what is really what you're passionate about, and try to find others that are passionate about the other areas that is important. So if we talk about software, you need to have someone that is passionate about the product. You need to have someone that is passionate about the commercial aspects, of it, because if you're only passionate about the product, you miss out on the commercial aspect. Because it's rare to find people that can master all disciplines. There are some, you know, wonder kids, but it's really hard. So I'm glad that we are 3 people as founders, because we can complement each other and help drive, because not all days are just happy days. There are days where you're like, shit, you know, what's going on, and you have to team up, and I don't know the English word, but you switch lead.
Yeah, thank you, Niclas. Emily, you have a question.
Yes, hi Niclas. So thanks for sharing your experience. So I'm Emily Charton, CEO and co-founder of DICMAC. So we actually match freelancers and expats, digital nomads with cross-border tax experts. So we're trying to make the bridge between the countries and a better flow between the experts as well. So my question is more related to the team as well.
Yeah.
I know that in some startups, sometimes you need more developers first, or sometimes you need a certain skill set. But how early would it be to have a salesperson or like a sales team? How early is too early? And what would be the best timing to have sales team? Because eventually those, they're going to bring you more clients. So from your experience, maybe you could share a bit?
Yeah. I don't think there's one answer to this, but I can so I can give you a perspective that I believe that it's really important that the problem that you try to solve with the problem, that you can sell that to or get someone that buys in from the potential customer that buys into the product, because the idea you have initially probably will change over time. So it won't maybe be the exact idea you have, or the idea is really big, but maybe you have to start with something, a piece of that idea, and probably that will not be the part that you thought up initially. So being very close to the potential customers, and I will believe that should be some of the founders initially. But then as you see traction, it's good to bring in a sales guy if you have your finances allow you to do it, because it puts you in situations that you have to take decisions that this is not what we do or should do, but this is what we should do. Because now it's like you have a sales guy that they really want to, you know, sell your offering. So I think it's good to get it in early, but that's probably because I have a sales passion. I really want us to challenge ourselves in order to make sure that the product represent what the customers actually need and want. I want to make sure that you avoid that you build something that you believe is the best product in the world, but there's no one ready to pay for it, or you start in the wrong end of the product. If that makes sense, Emilia.
Thank you, Niclas. And I'm just wondering that now you started your new company with Daniel and Jimmy back in 2018. Yeah. And what does the name Occtoo actually mean? And what was the problem you guys identified that made you guys decided to start Occtoo?
Yeah, so Occtoo was quite a, we wanted a generic name, but we had so many ideas, but we were turned down by Bolagsverket. So didn't really appreciate our name suggestions. So, but we came down to Occtoo because a little bit about the octopussy gathering, the 8 arms, gathering the data into one place. It's also about the 8 infinity, because we talk about that we want to connect our our customers, so they can actually have infinity amount of customer experiences. And also 8 is the number for fortune and luck. So a little bit the mix of that is what we like, and we really like that it's quite generic, and we can really fill it with purpose. Everything the other words we had was very technical, but Occtoo is something we can play around with. Makes sense.
Yeah, I really like that that the 8 in Chinese is symbols making lots of money. So I think that's a very good name.
Yeah, that's why I liked it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm just wondering, like Occtoo is not your first startup, and I think you already have a global network of retailers and brands. Yeah. But what are some of the difficulties you face in order to secure some of the first enterprise clients for Occtoo?
No, but it's always hard to gather to get your first customers, because they need to trust you as a team to be able to deliver on a problem they have. And the nice thing of being doing this for the third time is something that you've built up a network of both partners and customers. But it doesn't mean you can freestyle. You still have to have a genuine problem that you need to solve for the customers. Of course, there is a trust in your ability to deliver. That's something that you can talk to your history and reference your past experience. But it still comes down to that you need to have a real problem or opportunity that you can provide to the customer.
Yeah, and your team is working with some of the global brands like Nordic Next and Phoenix Outdoors. Would you please elaborate, a little bit of how does the Occtoo's experience data platform enable this brand to build a better customer experience?
Yeah, so we were thinking about even if our product can really serve any industry in any vertical, we realized that we need to be quite sharp in the beginning. And we saw that there was, and we talked to many customers, previous customers and companies, but we saw that within consumer-facing companies, there was a bigger drive for digital transformation, and there was large investments into e-commerce and customer experience, and it was prior the pandemic, and we decided to let's focus our efforts towards retail and brands. And Cartier was very early on, and they really had some big challenges, great ideas and some big challenge, but because there was a gap between what they had and where they want to be. And we actually, Occtoo came in and product and team together, we helped them actually to bridge the gap between what they have and where they wanted to be. So we actually reach out to many companies and try to find some good starting points, because we didn't want to go in the rat hole of building something that wasn't related to our product vision, because it just gave us money on the table. And that's something you should definitely try to avoid, because if you're a product company, you can definitely do consultancy, but as long as it's aligned with the product you aim to build, and that it really the product benefits from the work that you're doing. If that makes sense.
Karina.
Sorry, I just have to shut off the fan because it's so noisy. Yes, I just want to go back to the customer, having a close relationship to the customers. I'm right now coaching a lot of startups for Sony's accelerator program, and with a focus on sales and building long-term relationship. And so I speak a lot about understanding the person in front of you, understanding your customer. But do you have any really good golden nuggets on how to create that long-term relationship with your customers and creating fans? Because I mean, that's what we want, right?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's like relevance. How can we talk about something that's relevant to your question is like when we talked about what we want to do at Occtoo, we actually boil it down to we create champions. We want to build champions within the company, and have them to be able to come and work for the company, and then hopefully work for someone else. But when it comes to the customer side, we want to make sure that we can help them be champions within their organization. So try to understand, what is it that will make them, look as champions within their organization. If you can help them achieve that, you're going to be successful. So I think that's something that is really important to understand, and that can mean different things depending on where that person is in the organization. So it can, and how big the organization is as well. So really to understand, what type of company are you talking to? Are you talking to an enterprise company? Are you talking to a mid-market company? What kind of role does that person has, authority in that company as well? And how can you help them be successful? I think that's something we talk about a lot within our company.
Okay. Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
So do you like profile them? I mean, I work a lot with DISC, so I try to profile everyone that I meet in order to like, okay, so what words will kind of hook them, or what do they need in order to make a decision? Do you do that too?
Yeah, so we don't do DISC, but we do definitely personas. And then we look at, okay, what is that what challenges and opportunities do they have, and how do we solve that? So really try to give our sales development team, our marketing team, and our sales team the understanding of what pain points do the different personas have in those different industries or verticals. So that's something that is really key, and it all boils down to relevance. How can you be relevant for the person that you're speaking to? If that makes sense.
Definitely.
Thank you. Larissa, you have a question?
Yes, Niclas, in your marketing for Occtoo, you're highlighting really often the fact that you're building the company that goes global from the day one. I'm just wondering, what does this global for day one means, since there are many startups in the Nordic that when they're starting the company, they will focus in the local markets first. So why do you think this is important to start global for the day one?
Yeah, I think that for us to, when we started to think about starting a new company, so me, Jimmy, and Daniel, you really have to, look at each other, deep in the eyes and say, okay, do we have one more company to start? Because it's quite a stretch. It's a marathon, and you know that you have many years ahead of you. So you need to make sure that you have that energy. And for us, that energy was looking at, do we have a problem that is big enough? And with big, I mean, can this be something that companies all over the world can use? Can we attract people all over the world to buy into this vision? So it was more or less that was the starting point. But I believe that if you, at least for us, it was like we wanted to start a company that had that big opportunity, and we were ready to for us to get passionate. We wanted to have the opportunity to work with the global team, and that's why we said very early on that we want to build, a remote first team. So talent before location. So we have right now people in 8 countries. And for me, it's just so rewarding because it's a very diverse company, and I learn a lot because I also realize how privileged we are in Sweden. So when I talk to one of our developers in Armenia, it's like his day-to-day is like very, very different. We have a guy in Niš in Serbia. So it's like it's very different when you start understanding, you know, their day-to-day, and it's just so rewarding for the team. But if you want to build a global company, I think you need to act as a global company yourself as well. And the Swedish market is too small for many companies.
Yeah, thank you, Niclas. Charlotta, you have a question.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Niclas and the panel. I'm Charlotte. Also, thank you, Niclas, for sharing your story. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Avayo. Avayo is an office sharing platform. So we believe in a more flexible and hybrid working in the future. And we hope to support you all guys, all collected workplaces in one app. Okay, now to the question. It's a journey starting a company, and we are 4 co-founders, and we have all different skills, so we match each other very well if you just look at the traditional business. But this is a subscription model, so we're into a SaaS company, which no one has no experience from. So it's like we're talking about all the things you just pointed out with okay, the product, it works whether it's in Stockholm, London, Malmö, whatever, but we see that we have some kind of scaling in front of us. But when should we really push the button, and what other like skills do we need just to be able to do that kind of journey? Because we see that the team itself, we don't have that experience. We have a lot of other things. But
right. I think that is a good question when you think about when should you start scaling. And I've seen too many companies do it premature. And something that I feel is when you're ready to scale, and this is just my experience, there are probably other ways to judge, but it's really when someone outside the founder team can sell the product, you know that then you'll be able to formulate how you actually sell the product, and someone that has come outside in can take that messaging and sell it, and you know that the business model also works. So if an external salesperson in that case can sell your offering, that would be a good way to say, you know, okay, now you're ready to scale. But Charlotta, do you have like it's an enterprise sales model, or is it a product led, or what kind of sales approach do you have?
Well, at the moment it's very like we are meeting all the customers with the onboarding process at the moment. And the thing is with our product is like we have 2 target groups, like the companies that have an own office. They want to share with other companies, and at the same time we have a marketplace where we can reach freelancers, also startup companies. So, and that's another revenue model. So at the moment we are working quite manually in both ways. I don't know if that was the question, but we are actually 3 that are working with sales or customer meetings at the moment, because we also want to learn and like work really close to the customers we have on board and see how it works, especially the ones that owns the office, or like they are the hosts of the office. So they are also part of the journey, but we started to look at all these third-party tools, like how can we now we have found our target groups, how can we work with them in different levels, and like also trying to collect them and in a good way. So I don't know if that was the question, but
no, yeah, but the answer. So I interpreted like you do like sales yourself and your team.
yeah, at the moment,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so it's great. So as long as you are out there and try to understand the customer buying behavior,
yeah,
you can match your commercial model to it. I think it's too early to scale the sales, but when you see that flies, you're busy as hell.
Yeah,
hire a salesperson.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and also the customer journey. How can we scale up the customer journey? Because at the moment we have built the platform, so like anyone with no experience can do the guide, and in 1 hour they have their full office in the platform, and they can start sharing with employees or with external people, but that's not the thing that we're talking about. We're talking about the movement or the transformation, like an Airbnb for office, and it's we're somehow a bit early, and in some other situations we are just on the right track. So it's we're trying to.
I think it's great to evaluate, what kind of business model is right for your business.
Yeah.
Because it's often, what's the deal size that stipulates, what you afford to invest in your customer acquisition. So if you gather some data points on, what the customers are willing to pay initially, and then, do you have a way to grow that recurring revenue? It will give you an indication of what kind of customer acquisition costs you can afford over time.
Yeah, thank you guys. We have some time left. I want to use the time to touch a little bit about the fundraising. So you successfully fundraised for both InRiver and Occtoo. Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, what stage was InRiver and Occtoo as in terms of the product and revenue when you close your first seed round?
Yeah, so we can, due to time, we can maybe touch on Occtoo, because when we launched 2018, we were funding the company ourselves, and we had a year where we actually tried to validate the ID and make sure that it flies and hire people. Then we decided to, with the ambition of building a global company, we realized that then we need some external capital, but also partnership. So we were looking at having partners for the journey and capital to fund the journey as well. And I would say that we were very happy to have Industrifond and 42 Cap, a Munich-based company, to invest in us, because we felt that we got some really good partners on a journey, which was key. So we were at that stage. We were around 2 million Swedish kroners in revenue. So we were not bigger than that. That was the seed round, and then the seed round was 22 million Swedish kroners. We have grown quite dramatically, but we still haven't used the money because it's going quite well. But still, we are considering doing an A round, because in the end, it's a great way to raise money when you don't need money. So that's something that we're looking into for the fall, and probably do a round in the beginning of next year.
That's true. Great way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, please continue.
No, so we were at 2 million, and we're probably going to do around 10 million. We did 9 million last year, and switching over to MRR, we aim to be at 10 million in AR to do the A round.
Thank you. Some of the founders here, they're also fundraising. I'm just wondering, like, bootstrapping or raising venture capital, in your opinion, what are the pros and the cons? And what are the, some of the advice you'd like to offer for founders today when they will be, fundraising for the first time?
I think you have to decide because there's beauty in both. There's a beauty in building a company that is profitable and you can do dividends. So that's one path, and it doesn't have to be that you should raise money and go crazy. You can build a really good company. You can call it bootstrap, but like organic growth. But if you're aiming to build a global company, as a Swedish company, you have to raise money. And the competition is fierce. So you have to raise a lot of money. So if you decide to raise money, make sure that you're ready for the ride. Make sure you have the team around you that are willing to put in the hours. Make sure that you get good partners, good investors that can help you with recruitment, that can help you with the next round and whatnot. I think you just have to decide, what is right for you and your company. There's nothing I can definitely see beauty of doing dividends and live happily on that.
And you are also an angel investor yourself. So what kind of startups or solutions are you looking to invest at the moment?
So right now I'm 100% focused on Occtoo. So I'm not so active anymore, but because I think it's hard to be too scattered. Your focus needs to be 100% on something. But I believe that the angel investing that I did, so I've invested in Debrict, My Social, company called Voyado, which is the largest company. But I think it's rewarding because you get to work with really smart people, and it keeps you sharp, and hopefully it will make you rich if everything goes well. But if it doesn't, you've learned a lot. So I really love that piece of the investing, and for me it's all about the team. I really try to understand the team. With the brick, I just realized that security is a big opportunity. Didn't know much about it. I was very interested, but the team was really, it was a strong team. I liked them very much, and they're just warriors. And to be successful, you need to be a warrior. And the other companies I've invested in as well, same thing.
Yeah, thank you. Louise, you have a question.
Yeah, thank you. So it's also about investments. So if you look back to your experience as an angel investor, what's the most common mistake that startups do when they create dialogues with investors? What could they improve?
That's a great question, Louise. I think that there is too much time spent on the PowerPoint side, creating slides. I think establish dialogue with the investors, show them that you really understand the problem that you're trying to solve, and show them that you believe in it, because that's really what investors are looking at. They don't have to really understand the space 100%, but they really want to see that you believe in the opportunity, and that you can also elaborate around why this opportunity is big enough. I think that's really valuable, and also realize that try to understand, like, being relevant is like also understanding what kind of investments have the investor or the fund done in the past, because they have a preference. If you are a B2C software, maybe you shouldn't spend time on talking to B2B investors. Like try to understand their preference of investment, because otherwise you will just waste a lot of time, if that makes sense. And then also don't go crazy in valuations, because in initial phases, if you can show traction and that you get other people to believe in your idea and your vision, is worth so much. So I think don't go crazy in valuations initially. Try to get as many people excited about the opportunity that you're ahead, and they will spread the word. And for the next round, they will, everyone will look at, wow, so many people that also believe in Luis. I think that's the power of the community.
Thank you, Niclas. You were talking about team, and we have a question from the audience, Vala. Sure. Like, what competence and characteristics should a solid founding team have, apart from complementing each other's weakness?
Well, so I think we start with, so competence-wise, I believe, if you can find a good match of the commercial aspect and the product and the technical aspect. So I believe that's one part. Then there is also this with integrity, that is so key, that there is a respect between the founders, and that you don't have principles, that you really can have those vivid conversations, and you don't have to be right. You can listen in and respect the other one's competence. So that's something that I think is key in that aspect. Also, as founders, I think we actually got this office that I'm actually in because there is a part where, when you are early days of the company, being together, being able to whiteboard, be creative, there's a big value of that. So we decided to actually get an office in Malmö. We were sick and tired of being in the living rooms and kitchens of my house, Daniel's house, and Jimmy, or a cafe somewhere. So we got this, and that really helped us to sit together, work together, and we can overhear sales conversations and whatnot. So that's the challenge now, being remote.
Yeah, we have a few minutes left. Before we jump off, I just want to ask you about, we have lots of international talents here today in the audience. Yep. And Occtoo currently has like 30 team members and is still expanding. So how would you describe the culture at Occtoo, and what kind of talents are you looking for at the moment? And what makes Occtoo a great place to work?
Thanks for asking. No, but I think that we definitely are remote first. So that's key. If you want to work with for Occtoo, it's you have to buy into that, and that's not just something we do now during the pandemic. We started that, or we decided that prior to that. Even if we're a startup, we believe in work-life harmony. We don't talk about balance, because you can work hard, but then you can maybe take some days off, because the harmony is key. You need to have the mindset of learning. Like, this is really key. You don't have to be an expert in everything, but you need to show that you are eager to learn and understand, to be able to take feedback, give feedback, coach. So that's really key. And also being inclusive is also something that is really important for us. Because there is really one team. One team is really that makes us successful. If that makes sense.
One last question from the audience is that from Jeremy: how have you balanced family life, kids, and building a high growth company in River? Have you had to sacrifice one for the other?
So yeah, it's easy to say, and I have had my share. I commuted by airplane, so it definitely has been really hard. The cost has been that I have been able to. I have to decide that family comes first and friends second. So it was 10 years of really hard work. And that was what I referred to when we started Occtoo, was like, okay, do we have another 10 years in us? Because it's really hard to succeed with a company. But it's been hard. But the best reward is when I talk to my kids and they say, well, you know, you've been, you know, gone a lot, Dad, but you always, when you were home, you always focused on us. And that's something that I love to hear, because you've had a bad conscience, because the company has consumed a lot of your time, of course.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you for everybody who joined us today. This comes to the end of the discussion. And thank you so much, Niclas, for sharing your experiences. And for all the audience, stay tuned for Skåne Startup. Follow us on our social channels, and we'll be having more Founder Fika Friday, where we invite successful entrepreneurs like Niclas to share the experiences. Thank you, guys, and have a nice summer. And
thank you very much.
Yes,
Take care.
Yes, enjoy the sun. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.